Welcome. Today, we're not just learning about international marketing, we are going to build your exact blueprint for mastering it. This isn't about rote memorization, it's about really getting the logic behind global strategy so you can build powerful, high scoring answers on your exam. So, here's our roadmap. We'll start with the plan, then the structure to make it happen. After that, we'll talk about control, then strategy, and finally, we'll tackle the unique world of marketing services. You'll see how each section builds on the last one. Okay, let's dive in with crafting the global plan. All right, first things first, we have to start with the most fundamental piece of the puzzle, the International Marketing Plan. I want you to think of this as the architectural blueprint for any global expansion. It's the master document, the strategy guide that dictates every single major decision. Without a solid plan, any international venture is basically built on sand. Now, why is this so critical? Well, unlike a plan for your home market, an international plan has to navigate this incredibly complex web of different economies, cultural norms, weird legal hurdles, and political risks. The investment is huge, the risk of failure is high, so having a systematic, structured plan isn't just a nice to have, it is absolutely essential. Okay, so when that exam question pops up asking for the components of an international marketing plan, the magic number you need to remember is 10. Yep, there are 10 critical components that make up a complete, solid plan. For your exam, structuring your answer around these 10 points is your ticket to a top grade. We'll break them down into two groups to make it easier. The first 5 are all about doing your homework. We kick things off with a situational analysis. And a great tool for that is the PESTLE framework. That's political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental factors. Think of Walmart meticulously studying India's retail laws before they even thought about opening a store. Second, deep market research, like how Netflix studies what people watch in different countries to create local shows. Third, market selection. You got to pick your battles. Fourth, you set clear, measurable objectives. And finally, number 5 is the entry mode decision. Are you going to export, form a joint venture, or something else? The next 5 parts are all about putting that plan into action. This starts with the big one, marketing mix decisions, adapting your 4 Ps. A perfect example is KFC creating vegetarian options just for the Indian market. Then comes budget allocation, followed by a really thorough risk analysis. What if the currency tanks? Next, you need a detailed implementation plan, a timeline of who does what and when. And last but not least, number 10, you have to set up performance evaluation metrics, or KPIs, to actually track if you're winning or not. So what's really crucial here is the logical flow. See how it moves from broad analysis to specific action? Take a mental snapshot of this slide. Analysis, research, selection, objectives, entry, mix, budget, risk, implementation, and evaluation. This is the exact order that will help you structure and memorize the answer for your exam. So we have our blueprint, but a plan is pretty useless without the right team and organization to bring it to life, right? This brings us to our second key area, structuring for success. How a company actually organizes its people for global operations is a huge factor that determines if that brilliant plan succeeds or if it fails. This is a classic exam question, and let me tell you, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The best structure really depends on how international the company is and what its overall strategy is. So let's look at the main options you need to have in your back pocket. For your exam, these are the 5 structures you've got to know. An international division is usually the first step. A global product division, like what Sony does, is great when product consistency is key. A geographic division makes sense when local tastes are king. Then things get more complex with the matrix structure, like at Unilever, where you have to think about both product and geography. And finally, the most advanced is the transnational structure, which tries to get the best of both worlds, global efficiency and local responsiveness. This visual perfectly captures the fundamental tug-of-war in any global organization, centralization versus decentralization. On one side, you have centralization, where headquarters calls all the shots. This gives you tight control and consistency. On the other side, you have decentralization, where local managers have the freedom to make their own calls. This gives you speed and local adaptation. Choosing between them is one of the biggest strategic decisions a global company has to make. Okay, so we have a plan. We have a structure. Now you need control. Control mechanisms are just how a company makes sure its international marketing activities are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing and staying on track with those big strategic goals. Now, for the exam, you need to remember that control is about way more than just money. Don't just mention financial control. You have strategic control to make sure you're hitting long-term goals. You have operational control for the day-to-day stuff. And then you have these equally important controls like quality control for standards. And this is a big one, cultural control, which makes sure the company's core values are being followed everywhere. This section here is absolutely vital. If the plan is the what and the structure is the how, then the strategy is the why. International strategy is all about how a company decides to compete globally. And it's always this balancing act between the need to be efficient and save costs and the need to adapt to local tastes. This matrix right here, this is the single most important visual for this topic. I mean it, commit this thing to memory. It maps out the strategies against two key pressures, the pressure to cut costs and the pressure to be locally responsive. For example, a global strategy is for when cost pressure is high but local adaptation isn't a big deal. This grid is your key to a perfect answer on this question. And when you need that killer example for the transnational strategy, the one that has to deal with high pressure for both cost and local needs, use McDonald's. It's the perfect case study. They keep their brand the same everywhere for efficiency, but they adapt their menus, like offering the McSpicy Paneer in India. Using this example shows the examiner you really get how this works in the real world. All right, last but not least, let's tackle the unique world of international service marketing. We're moving away from physical products now and into intangibles, things like banking, tourism, and IT services. And believe me, they come with their own distinct set of challenges and opportunities. The World Trade Organization actually gives us a really useful framework here. It defines 4 main ways you can supply services internationally. Mode 1 is cross-border, like online consulting. Mode 2 is consumption abroad, think tourism. Mode 3 is setting up a commercial presence, like a foreign bank opening a local branch. And Mode 4 is the movement of people, like a consultant traveling to work with a client on site. The upsides of going global with services are massive. Because you're often dealing with knowledge and expertise instead of physical stuff, you get to skip all the inventory and shipping costs. That can lead to really high profit margins. It also lets you expand into new markets super fast and can be a powerful way to build a global brand. But, and this is a big but, the challenges are just as real. You're going to face major cultural barriers, different regulations in every country, and the huge, huge challenge of keeping your service quality consistent across all those different markets. It's just really hard to standardize a service, and your training costs can go through the roof. So how do you get around all those problems? The answer? The secret sauce is building a strong service culture. This is a mindset, an obsession really, that puts customer satisfaction above everything else. It's about empowering your employees and setting global standards for service. And the gold standard example here is Ritz-Carlton Hotels. They're famous for it. All right, let's do one last rapid-fire recap to really cement these ideas in your mind. This is the blueprint you're going to take with you right into that exam. Okay, let's lock in these key frameworks. For the plan, remember those 10 steps, from analysis all the way to evaluation. For structures, remember the 5 types, from the simple international division up to the complex transnational. For strategies, picture that 2x2 matrix, that balancing act between cost and local pressure. And for services, remember the 4 ways to supply them and why that service culture is so critical. And that leaves us with a final thought to chew on. We've covered all the established frameworks, but the world is changing fast. With technology and cultures evolving all the time, which of these strategic tools, the plan, the structure, the strategy, do you think will be the most essential for the global marketer of the future? That's something to think about.